When I went to Israel, immediately after their attack by Hamas, 8 days later, whatever it was, and I told him we were going to help. And I said, but Bibi, I said, you can't be carpet bombing these communities. And he said to me, well, you did it. You carpet bombed, not his exact words, but you carpet bombed Berlin. You dropped a nuclear weapon. You killed thousands of innocent people because you had to in order to win a war. I said, but that's why we came up with the UN. New deals by which what we would do relative to civilians and military.
Dalam sebuah wawancara eksklusif yang ditayangkan oleh salah satu jaringan berita, Joe Biden mengakui keterlibatannya dalam menggenosida negara lain. Sebelumnya, Biden dan Benyamin Setanyahu terlibat dalam percakapan yang seolah Biden tidak setuju dengan tindakan Setanyahu. Namun justru Setanyahu membuka aib Amerika dan mengikuti jejak pemerintah Amerika dalam menghancurkan negara lain. Dan dalam wawancara tersebut, Biden tampaknya sedang cari muka demi mendapatkan nama yang baik di mata dunia. Biden dengan tegas menyatakan bahwa Amerika harus menjadi satu-satunya pengontrol dan pemimpin dunia.
So he was comparing 21st century war tactics, battle tactics, with World War II.
Well, what he was really doing is he was going after me for saying you can't indiscriminately bomb civilian areas. Even if the bad guys are there. Even if the bad guys are there, you can't take out 2, 10, 12, 1,500 people, innocent people, in order to get the one bad guy. And he made a legitimate argument. His perspective said, look, these are the guys that kill my people. These are the guys that are all over in these tunnels. Nobody had any idea the miles of tunnels are down there. It's amazing what they built. And they're sometimes 200 feet under the ground. Well, the way to get to them is take out the places where they were under which they got to the tunnels. And so that's the first time I had the discussion about bombing civilian areas was when I went over after the 9/11, after the massacre that occurred.
So on that first trip, 10, 11 days after October 7th, you already raised the issues of how to get to a ceasefire.
Well, not a ceasefire, how to prevent innocent death.
Yes.
And then I pushed really, really hard for more humanitarian aid to go in and ways to get it in. And Bibi, look, in fairness to Bibi, he's got a tough coalition too, man. He's got the most conservative cabinet of any Israeli prime minister ever.
With that, did you have reason to believe that the prime minister was delaying agreement with a ceasefire for his own politics and with the political knowledge that a ceasefire would help your re-election campaign or Vice President Harris's presidential campaign?
No, I don't think it had to do with it to help our campaign versus Trump. I don't think that was his calculus. But I do think he's in a position where, even now, it takes a lot of courage for him to take on that coalition he has. Because they're going to vote him out of office tomorrow. Remember, there was already the big fight about what he was going to do relative to the court. And so, in fairness to Bibi, he had enormous political pressure not to do some of the things, that in my belief I thought were counterproductive.
Did you have any discussions about the ceasefire negotiations with the President-elect Trump this week or last week as the deal was coming to a close?
No.
Have you discussed it with him at all since the election?
No, very, very briefly. When he came in here, I spent 2 hours with him to try to change the nature of the transfer of power so it was done peacefully. And I told him what I was doing, what I thought could happen. But what we did, we brought in the people, or going to be his national security people. We brought them in closer to tell them what was happening as we hand this off. Look, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where we could continue to have the chaos in the Middle East without the running a risk of starting a regional war is really not possible. And the idea that Israel is going to be able to sustain itself for the long term without accommodating the Palestinian question and their safety, their meaning the safety of American Jews, not possible. It's not going to happen. So I've been spending a lot of time the last 4 years with the Egyptians, the Qataris, with the Saudis, with the Arab countries to talk about what is their interest. Why is it their interest to see this change, this dynamic change? And I kept reminding my friend, and he is a friend, although we don't agree a whole lot lately, Bibi Netanyahu, that he has to find a way to accommodate the legitimate concerns of a large group of people called Palestinians who have no place to live independently. And so how do you deal with those things? So I did really put together, if it doesn't work, I got to take the blame for it, a plan with my national security team. But I believe that we could make it attractive to the Arab world as well as to the Jewish community to accommodate the kind of changes necessary. Get the prisoners released, get a ceasefire, move in a direction where we agreed how this was going to work and how Israel's troops were going to move, how we're going to bring in rebuilding the Gaza Strip and the economy, how we're going to clean all this up, how we're going to protect Israel. In the meantime, what we were able to do, and I know it was very controversial when I did it, we also decided that we were going to protect Israel from outside sources. So when Iran thought it was going to blow Israel off the map, they had those thousands of missiles heading their way. Well, guess what? We put together the countries and didn't let it happen. Now, every one of the countries and the groups and the like Hezbollah and Hamas, and they're all a hell of a lot weaker. Iran is significantly weaker than it was before. Israel is in a situation where it is physically stronger in terms of protecting itself from outside interference from major powers. In addition to that, you have a circumstance where all of a sudden, people began to figure out, well, it makes more sense if we work this thing out a little bit. I've been dealing with, since I got elected, with the Saudis about, I introduced when the G20 occurred, a proposal as to how to connect everything from India to England. And because there was a natural corridor of economic development of that way. And, I said, well, no, that'll never get passed. I started this initiative, used to be called Build Back Better, but now it's called PIIG, whatever. And because how do you make it in the 21st century with all the changes taking place in technology without having an infrastructure to sustain the changes? And most of these countries countries in Africa, for example, are way in debt and don't have the infrastructure to have the capacity to build the infrastructure.